Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Transfer Market Metrics. The season's nearly over. Transfer window 1 will start on the 1st of June, less than a month or so to go. And ever since a certain right back decided to announce something on a Monday, transfer names have come galore. So we're here to pick up a few and talk about some familiar faces and whether they're worth the fee or comparisons. Now, Bart, I'm used to asking you this at the start of these shows. For these players that we're going to look at tonight, and almost revisit, it's fair to say as well, do any of them excite you, or are there more concerns for any of them?
I mean, I think we were just chatting off mic. There's not many players at the moment that really excite me. But what I will say is some of these I can logically see. Yeah, right, I can see how that could work. But that's just me, and I'm boring like that, and I completely appreciate that. You know, I'm probably on the negative side of other potential signings that people are talking about at the moment. But no, with some of these, I can see why we might do it. It's not my money. Does it excite me? Probably not. But that's fine. You know, that's absolutely fine.
Okay, well, we'll see if it's the same for you, ladies and gents. I'll be honest, I've got a few question marks, as many do, around a few of these. But we've got to explore the latest stories, and we've got to revisit a few things. So we'll start with a story that is quite interesting for a lot of people, Bart. This one came up. A player that we've looked at before, Rayan Ait-Nouri, the Wolves left back, having an interesting season. That 50 million rated. This article came out yesterday. And as it says, Liverpool have watched him frequently, but Kerkez is the number one target in that position. I don't think anyone will be surprised with that at all, Bart, with the Kerkez links. But seems Ait-Nouri still there. Now, the second thing to say is, Ait-Nouri, when you look at his stats, 5 goals, 7 assists in all competitions in a struggling Wolves team as well. But a Wolves team, Bart, so it's interesting because when we looked at him, they were right in the depths of their struggle. I think they were rock bottom when we first profiled him, and we talked about the worries around his defensive element. But Wolves have improved under Pereira. Ait-Nouri's been shouted out. So it is intriguing at this stage as we start to look into it. And I'll bring up your screen here for this one as well. Ait-Nouri, does he trump Kerkez now at all for you?
I think it's interesting because I think you and I actually said that we thought Wolves were in a false position. They had better players than their current position was showing you, right? And actually, that's proven true because the new manager's come in, and I think they're like top 4 for form since the new manager's come in. I think something like that. Anyway, they're right up the form table. So it doesn't surprise me that this lad's now getting looked at and the rest of it. I mean, in terms of, I think at the time we were looking at it, I think he's done, he's consistently played a lot of minutes. Like you got here, he's 2-8 this season. And remember, they're not in Europe. So to get nearly 3,000 minutes from effectively one competition with a few little cup games is pretty decent, to be fair. As you've pointed out, his goals and assists are pretty good. There we go. So he's actually adding XG to the team when he's playing. So that's 1.4 he's adding. It's a good kind of thing in terms of where we are in terms of non-opponent goals and expected assists at 0.23, which is for a fullback, not too bad. It's pretty good. It's if we were looking a bit more about what that actually looks in terms of what does he actually do, but he does progress it quite well. I think from memory serves me right. If we look here, his defensive side, I think we liked about him a lot was aerially, I think we've looked at a lot of fullbacks now, and none of them have amazing aerial ability, right? None of them. Clearances is probably a good thing because he's more used to doing blocks, and tackles is something I wouldn't want to see. But then interceptions would be higher, but blocks is where he's blocking the pass lane and the rest of it. So there are some elements to his defending. He's in the good space that we want. In terms of he is more of a carrier than a passer, so he progressively carries that ball. So basically, he's like Robbo rather than Costas. and his pass completion is 79th percentile, and that's 83.7% per 90, which is very good. That's nearly the top 20% of fullbacks. So volume isn't there though, so he's currently not doing a lot of volume. But again, some of that could just be the amount of ball that Wolves had, right? Although they're playing well, they're still not a top side. They still won't go into a game and dominate and want the ball a lot. So there'll be differences there. But the thing you need to point out with this lad is the attacking side of things. Yeah. So shot created action, 72 percentile. So that's 2.5 a game, right? Non-penalty goals, 88th percentile is 0.12. XG, 83rd percentile. Assists, 87th percentile. So these are all in and around the top 20% for fullbacks. And as you quite rightly said, he's playing for a lower half team, right? So and this is over the last year. So although he's had a massive regression because he wasn't that great, and Wolves have turned it around, if he maybe matched up the whole season being how they've been for the last 12 games, you would probably see a very good profile. And now just lining it up with the guy that is currently in the box seat, according to everybody, he does largely trump him. Like, there are a lot of metrics where he outperforms Kerkez. Kerkez has more progressive passes and more clearances, but again, clearances isn't necessarily a good thing. That shows you he's reacting, defending rather than being proactive. But every other element, he is pretty much either level, which is progressive carries, or Ait-Nouri is actually outperforming Kerkez. So this is an old favourite. AI lifters for many, many years. This guy always gets profiled on pods because he's relatively cheap. He's got good output, and defensively, he's actually pretty good for the way he is. So, I could totally see why we would be looking at doing it. His wages are dirt cheap as well. So, and he expires, is it next summer? His contract expires. So,
it's an interesting one because it officially says that when you look at various places which you can search as well, that he's a year left to go, but there's a club option for a year as well. So no one's quite sure, is that like automatically actionable? How does that work at all? There's a little bit of uncertainty there, but I think it's quite telling on that Wolves are trying to get a new contract sorted for this lad as well. Probably tells where they sit, like, let's get this if we are going to do it, i.e. asset protection, it feels, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Because I don't think you'd want to be losing. I mean, he's 23 as well. This is like prime age to be signing a fullback. With that back into the season like he's had at that age, I think you don't want to be losing him.
Yeah, I know. Excuse you, but I suppose the question I want to ask on this is, and I want to frame it in the right way for you. We've talked about it before. Kerkez is a road runner, as we've called him. Bombs up and down that wing. Great injury records and doesn't get injured. Up and down all day. That's about him. Ait-Nouri, a bit, not a road runner, as we'd say. Covers good ground, but probably from his metrics, definitely more of a threat in the opposition box than Kerkez, or just in terms of creation at the same time as well, as we can see. Is it that element for Liverpool, you think they've got to make a decision as to what type they want? Because I know we're comparing them, but is it a type question here as well?
I think these two are more similar than some of the players we have seen when we've been profiling. They both have the strengths are going to be in the carries, right? So that carries here. He's fairly high progressive carrying distance, total carrying distance. He's in the 60th. He takes players on. He takes them. He has touches in the attacking penalty box in the 89th percentile. So they've both got strengths in terms of that. They're not there for big passes, should we say? So you just look at where we are for position down here. So again, take-ons, progressive carries per distance is 74. So Kerkez, I would say they profile quite similarly, but I think Ait-Nouri has slightly better metrics. And some would say one is 21 and one's 23. One's had 4 seasons in the Premier League and one's had 1. So I think there's something in that. The physicality, though, Kerkez is anyone who's seen his physique, he's absolute. He's built very. He's an athlete, absolute athlete. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, even if you look at top line percentiles, it really isn't. If you were looking at it that way, they're not actually that close, But their strengths are actually carries there are actually. They're very similar. I would say Ait-Nouri takes a player on more and gets in the box, whereas Kerkez hasn't quite developed that part of his game yet. So he's not getting in the box. He's not taking players on. He's just carrying the ball. Yeah. The thing with Kerkez is that, as we pointed out, his pass completion is 75%, and his volume isn't there. Whereas Ait-Nouri's volume might not be there either, but his pass completion is 83%. So I think they profile in a very similar manner, but I think one is slightly more polished, should we say? Slightly more polished when he gets to the final third. Defensively, they both actually have similar thing, apart from Kerkez clears the ball more than Ait-Nouri. So yeah, I think they're both, to be honest with you, they're both Robbo. They're Robbo's profile. Robbo carries the ball. That's his strength. So therefore, they both do that. The issue is going to be Bradley also carries the ball. So that balance, you're either going to have fullbacks to do exactly the same thing. Okay, cool. Then you've got a strength in the middle, or you need to get another right back who isn't a carrier, is more of a passer. So that's just the only observation I would make, is that if you're going to sign another Robbo, that's fine. But your other fullback is also a carrier and not a passer.
A tough decision to make then. Interesting. It does have the feeling that maybe, I don't know, Ait-Nouri's being mentioned. It's clear Liverpool have looked at him, but maybe both are being used to drive the price down for each, if that makes sense. A typical Liverpool tactic. Of course it would be, because if you can, make the selling club aware that there is another option, you can always maybe change it into something else. So we'll see what develops for them too. Moving a bit higher up the pitch, in fact, moving right to the top end. Now, this name, Bart, Benjamin Sesko. This is a player that I call him Marmite almost from when I see the reactions when we talk about Sesko, that he's got 21 goals, 6 assists in all competitions. When we looked at him last time, massively raw. We talked about his physical attributes, but we had big concerns about what we were seeing when, delving deeper. And even when we ran him in a game, it was interesting. But recency bias plays a part possibly, because he scores a wonder goal, doesn't he, against Bayern at the weekend? And everyone's like, well, that's the guy, that's that. And then funnily enough, all the stories start in Germany. Now, the big thing about this is, it says on the screen there, Sesko and the fee. Suggestions now, Bart, that his release clause will exceed 80 million euros. So about 68 million quid if you got them exchanged at Tesco. But they'll accept a better deal, maybe more, in the way Liverpool like to do it as well. Spread it out over certain years in that regard. So Benjamin Sesko, maybe we've got Nunes PTSD, but last time we looked at him, there was a fair few question marks. It was a bit like raw data. Has he moved the needle with how this season has gone? What do you reckon?
I've got the full report here as well, so I've not even, Ariel's brilliant, 97 percentile, right? That's fantastic. Yeah. So when he comes back, he helps out. In terms of possession, so he takes players on at 92nd percentile. That's good. That's what you want your forward to be able to do. Where's the next one? So where does he take his touches? You want them to be in more the attacking third, to be fair, but he's actually got a high amount in the middle third. So, okay, fair enough. which means he probably likes to take it forward. Doesn't dribble the ball a lot, which, okay, that's fine. If we look here about, where's the next one? Pass types. Passes attempted 70th percentile. So it's not high, it's not low. Okay, that's not too bad. Pass completion percentage 26th percentile. That is a worry. That's a little bit low. It's more of a short game. Medium, low percentiles, and long isn't really an option for him either. Assist is in 64th percentile. So when he does pass it, goes into assist 2 in every 3, which isn't too bad. Shots on target 86th percentile, so that's 47.1% of his shots are on target. Goals to shot ratio at 75. Now that is good. That's really good stuff to be seeing. In terms of goals, 79th. Shots totals, that's 2.5. So that's it's not quite in the top echelons, but it's bobbling around there. It's not too bad. Yeah. Goals for XG, he's 93rd, so he adds XG. And what we can hear in terms of carries, he does like to carry the ball more than pass it. Okay, so we notice that he picks up in middle third and drives into the penalty box.
Yeah,
I think there are things to. There are things to. I can see why they would like him. I still think he's a bit raw, but. He does do. He has improved a bit since we last looked at him, for sure. He is a carrier. He does pass the ball, but he is a carrier. If you compare him to the guy who he's probably going to replace in the squad, Darwin Núñez, Darwin actually does outperform him on a lot of metrics, which is always a bit of a worry for me, to be fair. Sesko's aerials are higher. His take-ons are higher, his touches are higher, and his non-penalty goals are higher, and his passes attempted are higher. But everything else, Núñez is better than him. So and that's not to say that's good, because Núñez has had a good season. But if you maybe compared him to another lad that we are definitely looking at, which is Alvarez. So how does he compare there? Now, surprisingly for you all, he actually outperforms Alvarez on passes. Alvarez actually outperforms him on a lot of the metrics. But again, the same ones are very similar. He does win more aerials than Alvarez. He clears the ball better than Alvarez. He has more assists than Alvarez. But then Alvarez does dominate him on other elements. So, I think he's for £80 million, 80 million. Is it 80 million? 80 million euros, sorry.
Yeah.
That's still a bit high when, for me, looking at the stats, apart from his age, which is 21, it doesn't look to be that much of an upgrade on Núñez. Right? That's the only thing. Physically, though, looking at where he is, these are his stats in the Bundesliga. So top speed of 35, so he is rapid. Núñez is rapid as well. Distances covered is 287. So that's fairly good average distance per game. Intensity runs, how many sprints and runs he makes. That's okay. So, I'm not saying no by any stretch of the imagination. And ultimately, as I've always said, it's not my money. But he is quick. He does seem to have the physicality to keep going and sprinting and doing distance. It just, for me, though, looking just purely at the stats, right, it doesn't seem to be nudging it much beyond a player that we are going to be exiting. So, that'd be my only concern. And that's where the video guys come in and they do a lot more analysis to go, okay, well, is his finishing right? And to be fair to you, is shot accuracy, which we said was high, that is a pleasant surprise, because that certainly isn't what Núñez is looking at. So maybe if he's a better finisher, then that's a good starting place to go for. But otherwise, it doesn't really move the dial that much. Whereas for another 40 million, you would get a player that would substantially move the dial, which is Alvarez. So that would be the only caveat I would make to Sesko.
Would people not challenge back on this in terms of just being factual, as you said?
Yeah.
And with the stats, shots on target, 86th percentile, speed, rapid. Anyone who can see, you can see all the Bundesliga stats there. Also in all competitions, 21 goals at 21 years old as well. Champions League goals, Champions League experience already. Powerful in the air at the same time. It can help with both boxes. Even with that being said, and just being factual, a trend upwards, like Ait-Nouri.
Yeah. 100%.
You have to bring all these factual 5 elements into the mix. Does that still not move the needle enough for you?
No. All those elements are absolutely true. And in terms of, it's just, I would expect a more needle move for that amount of money. I'd expect a bit more to be now, if you like. If you said it was 60 million or something, I'm like, all right, fair enough, I see that. Because he's profiling, it's edging out. As you said, it's all improving. It's all in the right areas. I don't think it'd be a bad signing. It's just maybe I'm too old school. For me, spending that kind of money, I want someone to come in and be like, bang, straight away. And maybe this would be the platform playing for a better side in a better league with a better system. He might do that. But you've got to remember the buddy tax as well. Things get knocked down by a certain percentage for moving between leagues. We've seen that with a lot of recent signings as well, coming from Germany to the UK. So, Timo Werner was again a phenomenal asset in the Bundesliga, and when he came over, he's largely been unsuccessful for 2 sides now in the Premier League. So, that's the only caveat I would say to that. Yes, there's some uptick. Yes, there's progression. Yes, there's a trend to improvement. Doesn't always mean that's going to continue when he signs for you. And at 80 million euros, that's quite a big investment you're making on that. But it's not my money. And if you took the money away from it, I would say, yes, fair enough. I could see why they would be interested in this lad.
Well, the bean counters best be doing their research as well, because is he worth the fee? That's up to them to analyse. So there's your forward in the latest one, ladies and gents. And staying in Germany, but moving back a stage in the field, a midfielder, Angelo Stiller. Now, important to say, German international, 4 caps to his name. I'm intrigued by this one, Bart. 24 years old, just 24 as well, which is usually, a good age we like. Yeah. Left-footed. Literally, there's been quite a number of stories recently, and respectable German outlets rather than in the UK talking about how we're looking at this. Now, Stuttgart won at least 60 million euros, it said. So that's talking, around 42, 43 million quid when you do that exchange. So there's also the element that, or a little bit higher, to be fair, depending on where you get your euros, of course. But he has a clause that comes in, but not this summer, next summer, which is actually something like 36 million euros, so more around 30 million quid. So naturally, Stuttgart are in that area of stick or twist a little bit, because they know if he has a good season, someone's going to go for and pick up a bargain. Do they sell him now? And, he probably wants to move on a little bit. Last time we looked at him, in summary, you said, good on the ball, almost like we chatted about it, and normally Full would say different with some of his metrics. A lot of concerns, as you said, around off the ball more than anything. So it's almost like the Sesko style question, worth the fee, seeing the uptick, changing the mind at all?
Yeah, and I just go to the full report for this one because we're doing a revisit. Looking right at the bottom, so defensively, aerials low, so he's going to play DM Price. That's not a level we would accept. Grabs is going to be higher than that. Discipline wise, he does commit quite a lot of fouls, actually 93rd percentile above. So moving up, his possession, he does take people on, which is different. He carries the ball. Total carrying distance and progressive carries are both 89th percentile, so that's pretty good. Carries into final third, 74th percentile. So he does a lot more in terms of trying to move the ball up into the opposition box, which we know Grab doesn't do a lot of. Grab's very much tries to sit there, tries to move it a little bit, and then pass it off. Passes received, so he is kind of the fulcrum of the way they play. Yeah, he's receiving 96% of their passes. Touches, generally taking the majority of his touches in the middle third, which is what you want. But he's on there. He's on the ball at the right amount for a DM at 97 percentile. So he's in the high echelons of the amount of touches he has on the ball. Defensively, this is where we said before. Okay, so none of these are particularly great, apart from he doesn't lose a lot of challenges, but he also doesn't do a lot of challenges, right? He's in the 11th percentile for challenges, but he doesn't lose many of those he takes on. So, but he doesn't tackle the ball. Now, that's not a problem. I don't necessarily hate not the tackle because that's a desperate sign sometimes. But blocks, not particularly high. Shots blocked, okay, cool, 66 percentile. So he's in the upper third for that.
Yeah.
Interceptions indicate he doesn't actually step in front and nick the ball. Okay, could be the way their pattern to play. But defensively, there are still some areas where I'm a bit like, okay, that's not quite what I'd expect our six to be doing. But he is clearly shot creating actions 92nd percentile, so he clearly does a lot more than our current incumbent in the sit in front of the back four player does. And pass types, it's good to see he's got plays a lot of through balls as well, which again we haven't currently got. He seems to take some corners, an in swing and an out swing, which is good. He attempts a good amount of passes as well. So that's fine. Key passes to final third, progressive passes are all in the 90th percentile, okay? He also has a long pass on him, which Gravenberg definitely doesn't have, okay? So this is good to have. His pass completion for medium is 91%. His short passing is 93%. So that's 80th and 73rd percentile. So it could be better than medium, but certainly his short game is very accurate and keeps things ticking over. So there is a lot to like in his passing ability, and he also carries the ball, as we've already said. Shooting, not a strong point. Takes shots from free kicks, but other than that, not really one to be relied on for scoring from anything else. But as you can see here, he does have 89th percentile for assists, given in mind he's playing further back. That's pretty good. 98th percentile for progressive passes and 66 for progressive passes received. So, yeah, overall, there's not a lot of change in terms of the attacking game. Apart from his attacking game, it's probably better, we'll be honest with you. But if you do compare him to Grav, there are elements where he is going to outperform Gravenberg, which is the attacking side of the game, right? Yeah. And the touches and the progressive. But Grav does outperform him on some of the defensive metrics. There are other defensive metrics, though, as in clearances where they're the same. Pass completion, Grav is slightly higher, but progressive passes, again, Stiller is higher. Take-ons, because we know Grav likes to do that, drop shoulder and turn, and then progress it, he is higher. But that's not as dominant as it was when we first looked at him. So, I think if you wanted to add to your attacking game, Stiller would certainly give you that alternative. It might be good as a double pivot, but I don't think it would bulk up your defensive side, which is, I think, sometimes what we've lacked at the six. If you look at his metrics in terms of, but he's not quick, he's not slow, but he's not quick. He's only 30. Distance covered is pretty decent, and intensive runs and sprints are in and around where you want him to be. So, I think overall he's shown a bit more attacking wise, but defensively, still for me, he's probably not. If I was looking to sign a defensive six, I was looking to sign a more attacking six, or to complement Gravenberg, who was good on the ball and could offer you something different. Then I could see the logic in this, and the price actually isn't that bad. To be fair to you.
Funny you talk about price, because we said this on the transfer show when we did a bit of digging around Stiller, that absolutely Liverpool have looked at him, and absolutely that, it's something under consideration. But price is the key thing, that Liverpool don't see it in terms of how Stuttgart see it at 60 million euros. Liverpool would be looking for this guy a lot cheaper, in terms of not necessarily see him as an automatic starter one coming down the range. I suppose this is a bit of a loaded question. If Trent Alexander-Arnold wasn't going, so we were losing so much of our XT, do you think this guy would actually be in the mix in the first place, do you reckon?
Just going to find that question out for you. We're looking at Della.
Because it does seem when we're looking at him, we're almost thinking of someone who progressing it on the ball, the pass volume, we saw the short, medium, and long.
So he would give you 0.23 XT,
okay,
which is that's only 0.7 of Trent.
Yeah.
And that is also substantially more than if we just get the page load up.
A lot more than Grab, yeah.
Grab is 0.11. If you look at Mac, 0.12. So he is almost he's actually double both our current sixes. And I think actually he's probably better than Dom as well. So all of our centre mids currently around 0.11. Stiller is 0.23. So to answer your question of adding more XT to our midfield to counterbalance the loss at fullback, yes, he would definitely add that. Then you would only need, if you wanted to counterbalance the XT in the side, you would only need to, effectively, if you increase the number 9's XT from currently, I think Jota is just below 10. Yes, Jota is currently 0.005. So if you brought a 9 in, that was actually in there. And you counterbalance the 0.3 that you were missing from Trent.
It is interesting when we look at those, and will Liverpool almost sacrifice that? And I did want to ask the final bit on Stiller. I think you had it up. Adam Wharton is the name that a lot of people want, and of course they do. I want him, and he's all that, but fee comes into it. Does Adam Wharton justify almost his reported fee far more than Stiller? Are we struggling to compare those two, or is there that element where you could compare them?
So Adam Wharton adds 0.13 XT, so no in terms of that respect. And if you look at just comparing the wagon wheels, Stiller outperforms him pretty much, apart from clearances and tackles and interceptions. So even though we've already analysed that Stiller's defensive game isn't as good as Grab's, Grab's isn't amazing. Stiller is, Wharton's more expensive than Stiller, isn't he? He's going to be English by 70.
100%, more than double. Right. Yeah.
So, and I actually think Wharton is 20. So, okay. For me, if you're looking at those two, Stiller's your better buy. Even if he is still coming from Bundesliga, and you're going to have to put a bit of a tax on him. But in terms of XT, in terms of all the profiles here, Stiller is the better buy than Wharton. Wharton is a homegrown, obviously, and I like the player. I really do. And Wharton actually has got some slightly better defensive metrics here and there. It's still Stiller, from just looking at some of the attacking metrics, might give you way more in that element than Wharton. But they're both interesting players. Wharton's XT is effectively what we currently have. He's 0.13, whereas it's 0.02 more than we currently have, whereas Stiller is the guy that moves the needle there a lot. If you were looking to address the fact that Trent's XT is leaving.
Is there an element at all, though, that, because I'm struggling to get on board with this, I've got to be honest, Bart, but we explore the stats here, that you look at that and say Wharton's progressive passes are in the 92nd. And when you look at the defensive element there, there's no doubt Wharton is far, far better than Stiller. Do those elements balance out, or does XT almost, we're playing top trumps a little bit here, aren't we? Does that take it for you?
It just depends on what you want your guy to do. Yes, progressive passes here in 98th percentile, whereas Wharton's in 92nd. You're basically talking about 0.6. You are saying defensively, spot on. Adams are better, in the three key areas. Goal scoring wise, 92nd, 86, 93rd, 89. Wharton has got 90th and 90th. So there are similarities, should we say. Wharton doesn't carry the ball, so that also has that option. He doesn't carry it a lot, but he carries it better than Wharton. He's 92nd, 73rd, and 98, and Wharton is only 92nd. He's actually poorer in terms of pass completion and passes attempted. But the big thing Wharton's got is his English, and we're losing. We could potentially lose 3 or 4 English players, which could be a problem for squad size. So, I like Wharton. I wouldn't be adverse to signing Wharton, but from looking at a stats point of view, I can see if you're looking to add attacking wise to your pivot area, which might allow you to play Mac further up, perhaps, then I could see why they would be looking at Stiller. If you're looking to add a bit of defensiveness and get an English guy, then Wharton probably is slightly a better choice, but he's not going to replace the XT that you need to replace, whereas Stiller is going to give you, if he carries on, even if you knock that down by 15%, he's still going to give you nearly 28.2 XT, which none of our midfielders get anywhere near. There's certainly some elements there. I can see why they would be looking at Stiller, and that's not to knock the fact I still think Wharton would be a good buy, but for different reasons.
There you go. Whereas I would sell a kidney to get Adam Wharton to Liverpool. So we'll see what happens. And there we have it, ladies and gents. It's 3 revisits, but it's 3 important ones. Ait-Nouri, a real question as to whether that's a better buy than Kerkez. And on some of the metrics, it could be the case, regardless of opinions. Benjamin Sesko, the metrics have nudged up. We've got to say that. He is rapid. He has scored goals at a young age. There are still a few raw concerns there. Maybe it's Darwin Núñez PTSD, who knows? And with Angelo Stiller, a lot to like on the ball. Not too much of a change in the metrics. Still defensive question marks. Yeah, the price, it could be one to keep an eye on. And we shouldn't have to wait too long to find some of this out, ladies and gents, because things are moving quickly. We know what certain fullbacks confirmed he's off, so plans are underway and a transfer window opens in less than a month's time. All it leaves me to say forever, Barts, is thanks for the time. Thanks for the insight. I'm not agreeing with your Adam Wharton, Angelo Stiller assessment, but I appreciate the metrics and the argument were all logical and in play there. So as ever, thanks for all that.
No worries, anytime.
And ladies and gents, that was another Transfer Market Metrics.